everybody. I'm Kyle Hanan, the world record holder in surviving the most chemotherapy and also the cancer patient with the largest biceps in the world. Today I am here with Chris Quintero and he is trained to go, man. We're stoked today to get into some awesome podcasting stuff.
Yes, sir. It's going to be awesome. Can't wait to speak to you guys and show you guys a little bit what I'm about. In America, my last name's Quintero, but in Mexico and in Latin countries, it's Quintero.
Quintero.
But I grew up in America, so I said it like Quintero.
So, who are you, man?
I'm a 21-year-old savage. That's what I am. Yeah.
Truth.
Yeah.
That's the truth, man. We'll get into some videos to take a look at Chris. A lot of people know my story, and for those that don't, I've been battling cancer for about a decade now, terminal cancer. So I learned how to fight in that. I learned how to battle. I learned how to brawl. Had a lot of close calls. It wasn't easy going through all those chemos and everything, but man, I'm here. I'm so grateful to be sitting with a guy that's just as awesome as Chris, man. I've gotten to know Chris pretty well over the last couple months. And man, right away, it's sort of like a gift one of the gifts I received of going through all that crud is I was able to kind of look at somebody and studied people's posture for a long time in my previous career, and I studied their life and how they handle situations and how they are in terms of their discipline and their overall health. And when I first got to know Chris, I saw a guy that is extremely focused, especially for being at such a young age. I see a guy that is absolutely destined right now. If he keeps doing what he's doing, he is going to be way up there. And what is your goal? What is your long-term goal?
Yeah. Honestly, my long-term goal is I want to be a healer. I want to heal like the world. Because I feel someone who comes from my background, I could reach like certain platforms I could just relate to a lot of people of different like cultures. So that's what my goal is, and I'm gonna get to where I need to get by performing in the UFC. Like once I get there, I'm gonna take it slow. If I could help produce music in my 30s and then even get into film directing in my 40s. Right now, my main goal in my 20s is to become like a UFC champion in my division, and I'm basically, my whole life revolves around like Spartan stuff. Like I train, my mind's on it, I read, I stretch, and I learn every day. And being a good person is number one to everyone.
Chris has been a great friend to me. You're a good dude, man. I really appreciate you, man. From day one, I think we really connected, and I consider him family, man. He's been over quite a bit. We got into watching some fights, and Ara cooked up some feasts for us, and he's gotten inundated in that one, and we've been doing some cold plunges. And when Chris talks about himself, it's always hard to talk about yourself. Even myself, I'm like, man, I want to tell people who I am and what I've been through. Chris is a very humble guy, but I really love that. I think something to learn from him right now. It's such a young age. There's so many distractions especially for the generation coming up. I've got my son Kai over here that's our executive producer today. You want to say hi, dude?
Hello.
And it's almost not fair. There's iPads, there's video games, there's all this kind of stuff, and Chris is full-time, 100% working his ass off and to achieve these goals he had. I think it's awesome to dream big. I really admire that he's got some long-term plans, even past fighting, that he's thinking ahead in life, which is so powerful. We should all be setting goals long-term, and hey, things shift. Like, I didn't know I was gonna all of a sudden get cancer. I have my career going, but you know what? I'm grateful. Not that anybody would get cancer, but that the path that it took me on, that it brought me into places that I never imagined that I would go before. That so many things happen in life, but I think it's really important to set that goal. I believe 100% in Chris. I believe that he's going all the way. I think it is awesome to say you need to claim that you're going to be a UFC champion, and You need to claim it and set that dream and set that goal if you want to achieve it. And he definitely is putting in the work around some of the greatest coaches in the world. Where you're training, where I'm training, I believe this is an incredibly special place. This is not just a gym. There's a very huge dedication to optimizing health. For example, Tim Welch and Sugar Sean O'Malley were on the Ben Greenfield show several months ago, which is probably one of the top podcasts in the world and one of the top authors and studiers in the world and researchers of optimizing the future trends and the top of the curve of optimizing health. And we're in a place where we're doing things that are way up there in the trends. And Chris has a lot of practices. He has routines that he has developed and discipline, including the cold plunges. Could you talk a little bit?
That's from my coach, Tim Welch, and the things that they've done, so I owe it to them and Frank Ramsey, and then even Sean. Like, just seeing what they've been able to do, it just inspired me. Like, if they could do it, I know I could do it, because that's just my mindset. And everyone should have that mindset. Like, just know that you could do whatever you want, but you have to surround yourself with people who are like-minded. Like, if you want to do something and you're doing something and the people you're around, like, they're not on the same vibration as you, like, if you're not correlating with them, you need to go find an environment that will, so you could be your true self.
What are some of the routines that you have on a daily basis, some of the habits that you've developed since you embarked on this career in the MMA?
Honestly, it all started when I had my first amateur MMA fight, and I just signed up for it. I started training to fight kickboxing at 17, and then I only trained for about 8 months under Eddie Chaw at the lab. And then right when I turned 18, I started partying. I got a DUI, and I got in some things that wasn't particularly going to help me get to where I want to be for my goals, but which is about trial and error in life. You're always going to have dark moments, not necessarily dark, but like they can be.
True.
So it all started last year after I lost my fight, and not even necessarily when I lost my fight. It was just like I felt like spiritually enlightened, because once I was like a misfit. How I said in the beginning of the video, a savage. I'm still a savage, but I'm a good-hearted savage. And now
What was your experience? What did you feel like the first time you did a cold plunge? I think he hit 3 minutes, about 3 minutes his first time in the cold plunge, 34 degrees.
I felt, honestly, right when I went in, I knew it was going to be cold, because I've jumped in the cold, like, lakes, like, at 5 a.m. before, at Sedona. That's not a lake, but it's fresh water in the north, so it's pretty cold. So I knew to an extent that it was going to be pretty cold, but right when I went in there, I knew if I focused on my breath, I would be able to do it, and that's all I did. And then once it hit 3 minutes, I got out, and I felt like that was like a natural, I don't know, like little boost of energy, and I felt very good, but it was cold, but not too cold. It wasn't like I was scared to do it again, because I'm doing it again.
It's really something too. We study a lot about breathing and about mindset. I'm sort of entering into operating as a mind coach, and I don't even know what that is exactly, but Chris is kind of helping me work through that, and we're sort of working together to kind of iron sharpens iron. So one person sharpens another person, and you sharpen that, and stuff grit comes off, metal comes off, sparks fly when you work hard and you sharpen one another, and good things will happen. So that breathing element of it, when you're training MMA or when you're battling something difficult in life, when you're going through a dark time, like Chris was saying, when you're in there and things are rough, and especially these days, there's so many people that have been trapped inside and that are just not moving right now, and filled with anxiety and just depression, and it's real stuff, or they've been sick. They've gone through a horrible sickness right now, and through that, what can we do? What are some things that we can do that we have control over that's going to help us through those times? And one thing we learn is breathing. In fighting, I believe very strongly, and I believe Chris does too, is there's no other sport that requires so much physical and mental effort and so much care and optimizing of health. The UFC Institute right now it's like a science lab almost, where they are studying athletes that are put into combat. This is truly, but fortunately nobody has died in the UFC, right, that I know of. Nobody's died in the UFC. Nobody's been seriously hurt, whereas in other sports they have. That's a whole nother side, and go down a rabbit trail with that one. But UFC has been very well kept, fairly safe overall, and you get some injuries in the fight, but you recover just like in football or in other sports. The MMA requires an athlete to be optimized, even on the level of an Olympic athlete. You have to be trained and ready. If you want to be the best, if you want to be the elite person, you need to be into optimizing health ahead of the game. Maybe the opponent just goes, the next opponent is going to practice a couple times a week. Maybe they're training 4 hours a day, but they're not doing the things that Chris is doing. Reading. This man is he's an incredible reader. He's learning therapy in ways of music production and arts. He's connecting. He's helping other people. He's receiving help. He's asking questions. He's doing all those things that are above, that sets somebody apart as a champion. And he's studying very closely, and he's training under, I believe Sugar Sean, is he the best striker that we've ever seen? His level of striking
in mixed, I think so, and then he's gonna just keep proving it.
I think so too.
He's setting the bar high, and it's good to be able to see that and then want to someday overpass that.
Yeah,
it's cool. It's awesome seeing him go out there and do it. Because I remember the first time I actually saw him at the lab, I was 17 and we didn't know each other at the time, but I would see the team practice and I would just look at people, and then I saw Ben, Henderson training, and then I'll just look and I saw Sean, and then I was just saw him training. In my head I was like, he's gonna be pretty good, and then he ends up being pretty good. So what's it called when great minds think alike, I guess.
Yes.
Because I thought he was gonna be good, and he ends up being pretty good. I feel like I've rose from the ashes, and now I'm like an eagle. I used to be a little misfit, bad kid. I was just mad at the world, probably mad at my father, mad at things that happened in my childhood. But ever since overcoming all that, I dislocated my elbow. Reading, especially what he said, just reading, breathing, and studying, just so I could become the best version of myself. If every day I wake up and I'm trying to become a better human, and then I still go and train, that all helps me become better as a fighter too. Because every day I wake up and when I meditate, I do affirmations all the time. I tell myself I am amazing, I am fast, I am strong, I'm going to win all my fights. I say all this. This is stuff I did not do, before I ended up taking my first amateur fight with no coach, by the way. I just went out there, signed up, and for months, honestly 2 years of just partying, doing some substances that I probably shouldn't have been doing. That wasn't gonna help me perform, but I didn't know. I was just some young kid. In my daily routine, I don't do wake up 4:30 and do the same thing every day. I do train every single day. It's just maybe one day I'll do a workout at 9:30, and then one day I'll do it at 3:30. It's just I'm not consistent in my time, but I'm consistent in my training every day. And I'm a free spirit, very much a free spirit, but I am focused.
So I just love what he's talking about, is what I absolutely learned in my battle in fighting in the last 10 years, in the mindset of, I asked him about his routine. Well, he has certain things that he does. Absolutely. He does not miss training. I've seen the man come in, he prepares everything for his training time to maximize that timing. However, what I learned is that if you get yourself into too much of a routine and you're up against a huge battle, it can actually throw you off. So for example, if when I'm battling cancer, if I eat breakfast the same time every day, I go to bed the same time every day, some of these things are not bad for you, but if I did everything the same time, I followed a total routine and pattern, and my pattern was broken in a day, something happened to me, maybe there's a whole bunch of variables. Every day something would happen where I would be sick, or I'd be in the hospital, or staff would be coming into the hospital and things like that. I learned that because I got so used to my routine, when it was broken, it created more stress in my life. And I've been studying combat pretty deeply, and I paralleled in there. I was like, do I need to stick the routine as the priority of my battle? And I learned that I didn't. I need to stick with some staples of healthy habits, but I needed to be always trained to go at any time. They have habits that they keep, but they're also they're ready to adapt to whatever might come their way. You might be fighting, you might be in your fight, and all of a sudden, like we hear this all the time, you get punched in the face, and then you got to adapt. It's kind of a free spirit. It's kind of a go with the flow, that you're ready for whatever might happen. You've trained your mind, you've got the mindset with those healthy habits, you've put in that work so that when it is time for whatever to happen, you're ready and you're going to roll with the flow. I think of Floyd Mayweather, who trained like that. You study his fight, one of the best boxers in the world. He'd just wake up and train at 3 a.m. sometimes. He'd wake up and train for 2 hours at 3 a.m. He'd train. He didn't have a set perfect schedule.
I would do that too if I got a text from one of my coaches saying this.
Yeah, man.
Train, I'll do it.
It's true. Yeah, I love that, man. We just love hanging out at the gym too. It's just a great spot.
I am blessed that's why I know it's my destiny. It's gonna be not just a good year this year, even though, because it's been a weird year.
Yeah, man.
Kobe, a legend, passed away, and the coronavirus happened. So it's been a weird year, but it's also been a great year. Like, Sean's won 2 of his fights, and he's gonna win again. He's gonna beat up Cheeto Vera with his country's hair. That's pretty cool.
That is cool.
But it's gonna be a very good year, a very good decade for the people in my life and the people I'm surrounded by. It's gonna be awesome.
I agree. You look at Sugar Sean and I've heard that he's got what they call the it factor. He's got that thing that other athletes don't have. He's got a rare thing that people just want to see him entertain. They want to see him fight. And no matter, even if he slipped up in the next fight, which I really don't see that happening at all, he's still going to be a draw, and people are going to watch him fight because of the work that he's put in. And like he's talking about, there's a genetic component, and there's just a character component. And I hope you guys see Chris. He's a cool dude, man. This guy has it. I really want to capture who Chris is. We can all learn from one another. We're learning from each other. You can kind of see what Chris's character is, and it's so important, I think, to really get that next level Sugar Sean type of thing, or a Conor McGregor sort of level, where they've kind of become their own brand, and maybe not necessarily on purpose, but that's just their character who is. And that's one reason we love the sport so much is those aspects of it. What goes in behind it? What is the life like? What is the character like? What is the branding like? What is everything attached to it? And I hope you can see where Chris is. He's got that special charisma. He's got that talent. And his Insta is Cage Loves Art. Can you tell me why you chose that one? I love that name.
The Cage goes back to kind of what he said in the beginning, how some people are just caged. When I came up with it, it was also because I had a vision of after I was fighting to retire from fighting and just work on music production, and my production name would be sort of like Johnny Cage from Mortal Kombat. And then I changed it to Cage Loves Art because I didn't want to just have it like Johnny Cage when I'm training to become a martial artist. It's more of like a brand of cage, because we're all cage in our head regardless. Even if you have a girlfriend and stuff, you're gonna talk to her and you could love her some way and she's gonna love you a different way. So everyone's caged in their own head, regardless. And I'm gonna be fighting in a cage, so it was just cage. And I was like, I love art, so I was just like, Cage Loves Art, and that's why it's like that. that because I don't have a girlfriend or I don't talk to any girls. I actually deleted all my old social media platforms just because I was getting too much attention from girls.
All the single ladies, Chris is single. Did you just hear that?
Yeah, but we gotta be compatible. I don't waste my time with no pretty mamas no more.
I see you, dude. Just getting to know you better is you're one woman person. You find that partner. I think that
she's gotta be cool though. She's gotta know how to cook like Ara.
Oh man, that's awesome. I'm rooting for. I think that you're in that place right now where I think somebody could come alongside you that would be compatible with you, and you guys would help one another. But I so admire too.
That'd be awesome.
Doing much better than me at the same age is that mindset of where your goal is. That you're willing to be uncomfortable in an area at this age because you are so dedicated to that goal.
I honestly grew up with an alcoholic father too, so when he would punish me and stuff and he'll be drunk, he would kind of shame me. So growing up as a child, from reading and stuff and learning over the past 6 months, and I've also came even more enlightened and have healed like past childhood issues I feel I had from that. And it's just good to know that like with positive affirmations, if you meditate and just keep telling yourself you're worthy, you are smart, and you could achieve what you want, it'll happen. But say if you get in trouble or a fight, or even if there's people watching this and you had like issues in your childhood with being shamed, and it all stems down from like you telling yourself when you're a child, you get shamed, you're going to tell yourself in your head or repeat the bad words you were told because you're a child, and then that forms in your conscious or in your subconscious. So your life starts like you start living that. And then it wasn't until I started meditating and just really reading, breathing, researching, and I've like my whole life just did like a 180, and it's awesome. Growing up in that home with a father who was an alcoholic, and it kind of went away from me a little bit, and I had to find it again, and I found it with martial arts 100%.
Nice.
And also like with my hardships that I had to face too, and how I'm still alive and I'm still passionate. It's never like I'm not like down. Even when I lost my fight, like there's light, like I was able to see the light, and I'm just so thankful that I'm able to. Yeah.
That's good. So your dad sounds like you're pretty cool with him now, right? You guys
we're cool now. Like
did you have to work through forgiveness with him?
Yes, we 100%. It's like I forgive him.
If you couldn't, it'd be so hard. I hear you say you moved out, had enough, and then to come back and reconnect with him, and now I know you like to try to spend time talking to him about healthy things and things like that. I think that's so amazing. And without being able to forgive him, I don't know. I don't think that would be possible.
Yeah, I had to. I didn't always though. I feel that also pushed me back too in my early adult stages, I guess, 18, 19, 20, because I didn't want to be home. Like when he would be home, I didn't like being home. Year early on, especially right when I turned 18, that was when I didn't have to be home. My parents were strict. Like I couldn't. They were like strict. My word, the highway. I worked plumbing too with him for a while. For 18, I worked there until 20. Forgiving him, it took time, but like it also just like you have to just love everyone. You have to try to like detach. If you can't detach from yourself and like try to see it from their perspective, then you won't like forgive, because you won't be able to. You'll just be too in tune with like your feelings. And it's good to have feelings and be in tune with your feelings. It's healthy, but it's also you have to be able to detach and see other sides of stories. It's not about you in this world. And once you do that, you can forgive people. Because life's too short to just be. You lose and you waste energy. Like, energy is important. I'm growing up, and now I know how important energy is. Like, even getting mad at someone when you don't have to. If you're driving, someone cuts you off. Some people get mad, and that's just like, that's wasting energy. You're actually changing a way your body's working now. After that, you're like resetting your body. So just reading helped me with forgiveness. Just learning and just growing as a person helped me with forgiveness, to forgive not just my dad, for instance, but other people too.
That's beautiful, man. That was nice. I'm 100. You said some things in there I think that are really powerful. A couple of things that I needed to hear too.
All makes good food.
I agree. To be consistent as Chris is, he never misses his practices. You have to be in a humble place, but I think that it helps you in life too. I know that just to be able to have that sharpening of one another and that combat with another person as we train for combat together and getting a very deep connection and helping one another, and then that relates in a social area of really high social health, emotional health, and then when you get out into life, I see most fighters that are consistent, they're very peaceful and very healthy emotionally.
Yep, and I believe that. I see it in myself. Like, the past 6 months, I've grown a lot, like more than I thought.
Especially the sport of MMA altogether has evolved so much that you cannot succeed, you cannot make it into the UFC if you're just a one-dimensional person that wants to take out their anger.
You might get knocked out.
If you come in there and
from someone like
people,
me,
and we're gonna hurt each other.
Sean.
That is not what's happening in there. And Chris reminded me too. It's the sport is evolving to where the coaches now. You're not going to go in there and brawl. It's going to be about working on stuff together, whether it's technique. We're trying to minimize hurting the person. We care about each other. When somebody gets hurt in there, everybody feels bad about it. And UFC stayed in it when no other sports could do it. They stayed in there, and that shows the mentality of the community of the UFC is to, hey, we're going to find a way to work through this and fight through it of all the sports. And then you look at Sugar Sean O'Malley and Tim Welch on the level that they're going to, and the only sport out. And in this next fight, watch this next fight. You're gonna see some spectacular things here. Then you throw a great Frank Ramsey into the mix. Or since Sean and Tim are at quarantine and training, we get to have the luxury of him being the coach for striking and for jiu-jitsu and grappling.
Good work we've been getting the past 2 days.
He's such a great, positive guy, and just
he gives you
strong as heck, man.
And he tells you what you need to do. Like, he's telling you it from like he knows it. He knows what he's talking about.
It's like the best. How does that even happen? It's like you said, hey, God he got you to some place, and he can kind of know sometimes that it's been such a healthy. It puts you in a place where you could forgive. It puts you in a place where you could get into this training place where you're around the best training, the coaches in the world. Even this guy Andy coming in, watching you guys train together.
San Andres.
Yeah,
man.
he's awesome. Man. That's a cool dude right there.
If you work towards it with good intentions, everything in life's about intent.
You hear faith. Like,
yeah,
I'll have faith in this, but faith without works is dead. It says that in the Bible, but it's like faith without works is dead. So if you have great faith and you have a dream and you have a goal, but you don't put in that work, and I think consistency is such an important component. That consistency part is to fall in love with consistency of hard work, to take that cold plunge when you don't feel like making the cold plunge, to take the excuse out and get in the habit of doing it consistently. And the more I see it as an opportunity every time. If you get called to speak in front of people, that's supposed to be one of the greatest. Go for it. Take that cold plunge. If there's an opportunity to cut something that you know you need out, like on one day, or if you're having trouble with food, for somebody to not let the food control them, but to control the food, to even just go without eating for one meal, if that's something you don't normally do, to start to do things that are uncomfortable.
So that you could probably create your own breathing techniques, because that's all what they were. Essentially, someone created the breathing techniques, but you could, when you're breathing in, it's So
Right.
many types of different breathing techniques you can
Definitely.
do, but
Definitely.
you have to focus on your breath and don't. A lot of people's minds are like hyperactive, so is mine, But when you just close your eyes and just really just have your mind focus on breathing in through your nose and out through your mouth.
And that it definitely was a component that saved my life in the last 10 years when I'd get hooked up on the life support and all sorts of machines and I couldn't breathe, and oxygen, and trying to get the oxygen, is I had to learn how to strengthen my lungs. And of course the lungs are vital in MMA, but just what he's talking about too, on another level, it helped me cope with any anxiety or any attacks or any stress that was happening, to start attaching breathing to what he's talking about, getting into some healthy thoughts, or to even those positive affirmations to say, I'm gonna get better soon, I'm gonna get better soon. That's better than something playing in your head of the past, like, oh man, this sucks. You're just in your head, it just keeps on. If you speak it out, it's gonna enter back into your ears. So that affirmation, along with some breathing, right? There's a lot of different breathing methods. I got to study breathing very deeply. And one thing, for example, that's very helpful if you do have problems with your lungs or you get a virus or anything right now, if you're in the hospital, they have a little apparatus where they want you to pull in your air. You really have to suck in the air the best you can to get those lungs going, and then you hold your breath and you blow it out. Well, you can simulate it, just like Chris is saying, play around with different breathing techniques, and it becomes more fun that way. I think too is you can take your fist, suck in the air as hard as you can with a tight fist for about 30 seconds, hold your breath, and then blow out. Do a couple of those, and it's a great way to clear your lungs out or heal them if you've been struggling with any sort of virus. What happened to your elbow again?
I dislocated my elbow in training. I would never show up to training not like ready to train. That's what happened. So it's another thing with trial and error. I think my injury made me even better. At first, I was like, I just want to train. I'm 20. I just want to train. This is like, I'm not in the UFC yet. What am I gonna do? I know, but and then Tim gave me a book, and that book helped. It was called The Obstacle Is the Way by Ryan Holiday. That's a good book.
And so I just wanted to give some examples on videos. Mr. Kai, executive producer, can you play us the clip of Chris playing basketball? So here we go. We're gonna cue it up. So here he is right now. He's got his arm in a sling, and he's dribbling around at the court. He's kind of messing
2 days after I
mini hook shot. It was
dislocated my
almost a
elbow.
hook shot. Love how he said, look at how quick he learned it. He got the backboard right off the backboard there. All right, now
I missed this one. It was a 3-pointer. I remember. I was upset I missed it, but and you gotta always shoot. Like, shooters shoot.
Only need one arm, motherfucker.
There's the shot. Oh! Let's look at a little more about Chris. Can we go into the YouTube? Let's look at yesterday's YouTube.
Oh, this is today.
Go today's. All right, so we get a little shot of Chris in training. Frank Ramsey, amazing striking coach, amazing guy, so positive, encouraging.
Is that yesterday?
This is
I
yesterday.
didn't even know you got it.
Yeah, that's how focused he was yesterday. I had no idea.
That's some work.
Look at that. We are not on sped up right now. This is normal speed.
Is that like our last one too? This is
Second to last, I think.
That's 9. That's 18 combos.
You guys went for about
Wait, no, that was
8
9 in a
minutes, I
row.
think. You went for about 8 minutes nonstop. Absolutely love the bag. I've had a relationship with the bag since it was the first purchase I made when I was 6 years old, and I can just tell that Chris, he's even more passionate about it. It just becomes your best friend when you're in there with it.
Yes.
You get in these rhythms, and it's art, and it's test your health. I just love it. He's hitting the bag and stuff, but if you see the timing and his movement and the power he has, look at that. Look how he snapped that kick off, how quick that was.
Natural, God-given power.
That's good right there. A lot of work too went into that, just to throw those jabs. And if you might be set for boxing, but he has worked really hard to get the MMA striking style down.
Boxing, how good are you really if you're just boxing? You're just throwing fists. Like, I want to be a gladiator. Like, when I saw 300 Spartans, the main character, at 7 years old, that was me.
There you go.
And this is how you prove it right here.
you got to be ready. So the stances and the striking and the distancing and the timing it's all different because you got to be ready for takedowns or kicks or
that's
elbows.
That's something that I've been working on. When I only trained kickboxing before I took my first ever amateur MMA fight.
Great.
The range thing and MMA is extremely hard. So
no doubt.
It's definitely not something to get in if you're not prepared to die, because it can happen. Like, it truly can.
We talk about that a lot. He saw me come into the gym with my Ivan Drago "If he dies shirt," and I was talking to the boys about it. We got a podcast coming up where, it's some people are like, I've said that phrase or whatever, and some people have been like, that's so dark and negative. No, it's not. It's an attitude. It's a mentality. We don't fear death at all. You cannot fear death if you want to step into that cage. So you got to conquer death. And there's a lot that goes into that in life. You see somebody who doesn't have a strong mindset, death becomes overwhelming to them. If somebody close to them dies, of course they're going to miss them in it. It's difficult, but if he dies, he dies. It's out of our control. And I love Chris. He's coming up with concepts of what to enter into the ring with. And what did you want to go into?
It's not right away, but I do want to fight because Russians are pretty good. And when I do fight a Russian in the UFC, I want to go. And if it's in their hometown, my hometown, I don't care. But I want to walk out to the Ivan Drago theme because I just remember like being 6 years old. My sister would watch me Home Alone, and she'll be in a room, and I would just put on Rocky IV.
There you go.
Because I loved it. It was just probably one of the best ones. But whenever Yvonne would be walking out, I'd be in my underwear and I didn't even train, didn't think I would be a fighter or anything back in the day. I played sports, obviously, but not that. And I just felt like I was a champ, like I was born to just fight. So walking out to that, it just made my body just feel some type of way, a good way.
That's good. So Chris moved a MMA, mixed martial arts, octagon, UFC octagon.
Yeah.
This last weekend for Sugar Sean O'Malley. Mm-hmm. What was that experience like?
Cage loves art.
All the way from Vegas.
No, I got a cage for Sugar. Tim called me last week on Monday, I think, or Tuesday. He was like, what do you think about driving to Vegas to get a cage for Sugar so he could quarantine and beat Cheeto's ass and not get COVID so he could go train in private? So I was like, all right, yeah, I'm down. Like, I was down to just drive. Then I walk out and I just tell my dad, he's on the table. I'm like, hey, I was like, I'm gonna go get a cage. Sugar's gonna fight, and he wants a cage so he could train. And he was like, well, why are you guys just gonna drive? I told him that we were gonna drive, and then he's like, I think a plane ticket doing that would be cheaper because you're gonna have two people driving and then following each other in two vehicles. That didn't make sense. So then I text him, and I was like, I brought that up, and then we ended up just flying. And we brought little Chris Rotz. He's like my manager, kinda, for free. I'm not gonna pay him. I'll pay him with experiences.
So what has marijuana done for your training?
We got the cage, flew with Chris Rotz. He flew us in. We went to Vegas, Ubered to the U-Haul place, got in a U-Haul, drove the biggest U-Haul they had to Roy Jones Academy, and we just, right when we got there, there's a guy backing us in, and then I got out, and then he's like, all right, we'll start loading it. So we started loading it. It was just me and that guy who helped, and then the guy who drove, he's totally out of shape, and we can leave that one in. No, but he didn't. He was like, I'm driving. So I was like, all right, it's all good. He didn't need help. I'm strong enough. So we just moved it in. And it took about 2 hours to get the whole cage in. And right when we got there too, I was like, is there instructions? Because when they're showing us all the pieces, I never saw any octagon before, not even a boxing ring. I didn't know it would look like that. So I was like, is this come with the instructions, and they pretty much told us what to do, and we ended up doing it. Like when we got back to Arizona that same day, we got back around 8:45 at the secret location, and we started trying to put it together, and we almost had it, but we're building the frame, and we couldn't get it. But I think our brains were just so like tired. Like we all had a long day. It was almost 12 a.m. that day, and we were still trying to build it. It was me, Sean, his girlfriend. But then the next day they woke up, and I guess I didn't get there in time. But by the time I did get there, they passed the part. Like they ended up figuring out the metal frames in the octagon and how to put it together.
Joe Murphy got involved, right?
Yeah, Joe Murphy came
He's
the
a smart
next
dude.
day. Joe Murphy. Good guy.
Yeah, man. Love Joe. Love to
But-
hang out with Joe right now. Have him here talking. He's a good dude. He's relentless.
Oh,
You roll with him too.
Hey,
He's
yeah.
great athlete.
I like
man.
it. He's not a bitch. That's for sure. Huh.
And then to be able to put together a cage and octagon. Joe puts together, moves pool tables and takes apart, puts them together, and then he's up to moving octagon. That's awesome.
He helped a lot.
That's so cool.
So in octagon, it's like you lay out like beams, like you put it the 8 columns. It depends what kind of octagon. Usually it's 8 corners, so 8 columns of beams. And then there's like 4 long pieces of metal that you just connect on the metal frames. Bah, bah. And then you put plywood on top of that. And then all the plywood, bah, 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 bah. And then after the plywood, then you got to put the mat, the thick foam mat, and then put the foam all over the plywood. And
How high
it
up was the foam? Was it like?
It was like probably about maybe a little under 3 inches.
Is it more than like the mats we have at the gym? You think?
Yeah, a little bit.
I see. So
Probably
there's
around
even
the
more
same.
give.
It was around the same, just different material.
I see. Did you feel like it was more give than like the mats?
It felt better a little bit.
Nice.
I think it felt better just because it's an octagon,
Oh,
and
man,
the
that's awesome.
plywood like helped out too. And then after the foam, then it was all like pretty put in place, but we had to tape it a little bit to make it like as secure as possible. And then after that, it was a blue tarp. We had the tarp, but we didn't have the rope. That was the only one thing we had to go to Home Depot and get. We got some rope, or Sean bought rope. He bought way too much rope too. Like he bought like 1,000 feet of rope, and he only needed to get like 100 feet. I don't even think we needed 100 feet either, but it got the job done. He
Nice.
might have taken the rope back, might have not. I don't know what he might use the rope. I don't know.
That's awesome. I was thinking of that trip. There's an image that stands out. It's just an epic photo of Chris just in classic stance. And then you got Chris, like the manager promoter, like or whatever.
It's
on the
hard
side.
for me to act serious when I'm around Chris, honestly. It kind of made me look like a cartoon character, so that was kind of cool.
Yeah, it was cool. So how was the trip with Chris? I don't know him that well, but he's a great. That's him as a manager. Or whatever it is.
He's
in
good
that
at
area.
talking.
Great marketer.
I'm not the best at talking because I'm weird, but like I'm open.
I think dude, you're talking just fine. Hey,
No, I know,
anybody
but-
give feedback? This
I'm hard on myself because I know I have a lisp in my voice. Mike Tyson's got one too, and he hits hard. So maybe it's genetics,
No, man, it's a cool. You got the cool flow sound. Anybody's gonna feel that guy sounds cool.
Cool. So being with Chris, the trip was cool. At training, I don't know. I'm open, but I'm not like, I don't talk that much. Sometimes when I leave training, my main thing is like, how can I connect with like my teammates better and coaches more? Because I realize that it's not a problem. It's just who I am.
But I think there's wisdom in not talking too much. There's that proverb: avoid a person who talks too much. Person who holds their tongue is wise. Using marijuana edibles or vapor or smoking and things as a lot of people know, that was a huge component of my battle against cancer, and I still am on chemotherapy, and it's helped me it continues to help me quite a bit. And mainly right now, I don't have taste and smell. Completely lost taste and smell for about a year now. So sometimes it's been a blessing, because before, when I would get nausea associations if I smelled a certain food, and it might make me lose my appetite. Just stuff that reminded me of being very sick, like something like chicken wings, which I love. If I smelled it, then it would make me remember that same association, and I'd get sick, and then I couldn't get hungry. So losing the taste and smell has actually helped me eat more, and I think that's why I've been able to manage my body a little bit better and keep adding muscle and things like that. So, but marijuana has really helped me more than anything. I've tried different anti-nausea drugs, some that were on new trials or newly developed. There was one that is, I believe it's like $300 per pill, is how high tech it was, and it still didn't work as well as marijuana for me. So that helps me eat. It's helped me kind of deal with nausea. And along the way, the other part that I love what Chris has said, he said, I wanted to smoke marijuana. That I also have made friends with it. And I left it for a while because I used it when I was the most deepest layer of nausea, and people ask me, like, what is that like? It's like a tequila hangover and the flu times 3 all at the same time. It gets into those levels of nausea where you have to take an anti-nausea drug. There's one that can stop you from vomiting, but you can't get out what you want to get out. So you just get into some really deep levels of just torturous sort of nausea. So those associations, I was using marijuana, which really helped me. And I think even my mom became a proponent of it for me, because they wanted me to enjoy Thanksgiving. So before a Thanksgiving, I was back listening. It came out, listened to Bob Marley, and was like, hey everybody, and I was able to have a great Thanksgiving where otherwise I would have been too sick to enjoy the food. So on that level, it's something that has helped me battle through this and to fight. But on the next level, as I said, I made friends with it, and I enjoy it. I really enjoy the different strains. I enjoy the recreational component of it, of being able to hang out with a good friend and brother that, you can talk about stuff and get creative in your thoughts. It's helped me in therapy a lot. I like to produce music too, so I mess around with producing music and writing. Sometimes I like to write, and of course we want to be safe with it and everything. Not trying to drive or having the wrong times or whatever. But I've heard a lot of guys over the years love training jiu-jitsu and smoking before they do jiu-jitsu, and we actually use vaporizer. I use a very super thing, Chris does too.
With the vaporizer, you just taste like the vaporized marijuana. Like, it's not smoke, it's just vapor. If you like marijuana and you use it, you're a user of it, you might as well just use it the best way. And I believe vaporizing it is the best way to use it. Or you could eat edibles, I guess.
That's one thing I love about our community that we're in too. People are into optimizing health, just like Ben Greenfield. He really studies what you can vaporize. So he's a guy who kind of was ahead of the trends in terms of vaping marijuana along with different plants or different teas and things like that. So I've got a vaporizer right now that is pretty awesome, that you can blend in the teas in there, like chamomile or lavender or things like that.
Good.
That is also
a
vitamin component. Yeah, here it is right here.
Chamomile.
And with me being on chemo too, I want to try to filter out any of the toxic chemicals and the mold and things like that as much as I can. I absolutely just love striking, and I just have been in love with it my whole life, and now learning the MMA next level, because the sport has evolved. It's evolving. It has come along so much in striking, where I truly believe when Conor McGregor fought Floyd Mayweather, I think it was a lot closer than a lot of people are trying to say it was. I think that
it was a lot closer. McGregor didn't have a long time to prepare for the greatest boxer ever. Not the greatest fighter ever, but the greatest boxer ever, Floyd Mayweather. He's actually the definition of boxer. And McGregor like get embarrassed at all until I think he got gassed. He didn't even get rocked. He was just getting hit because he was tired.
I made a tweet, I think I looked it up the other day, right after that fight, and I said, McGregor needs Egoscue. That was a company that I was a part of before in exercise therapy, posture alignment therapy. And I think I had written to McGregor and tagged Egoscue in there, is that he needs some breathing work first, and he needs posture. He needs to correct some things in his posture attached to his breathing. So before McGregor's last fight, he actually got in contact through Tony Robbins, who is connected to that whole company that I've been kind of specialized trained under for quite a while. I've been using it in my battle and helping patients and things like that. Is that they connected with McGregor and they worked with him. And you can find an article out there, Conor McGregor, the Egoscue method, that Conor attributes to part of his improvement in breathing in his last performance, and something that came out of his shoulder strikes. He just had these crazy, it's just like a game changer sort of thing. I know they've been around a couple times before, but nobody'd seen that done in a fight where it really just won the fight for him and just dominated us from having his shoulders and hips into a better position along with his breath. So that's something that
that's what we're gonna be working on with me too. It's my posture and just a bunch of that stuff.
Man, you can even see him on some of the training videos. He's back there doing some of the couple things I showed him. I got to reassess you again. I just happened to think that, man. Action.
Cage loves art.
Yeah.
It's not popping yet, and I don't care if it doesn't get popping until I turn pro, but if you want to follow me.